Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. It is time for my 2026 March Madness predictions. I know, guys, I know why it looks. I did not fill this out. This is an autofill, so I'm going to fix this while going over the games. So, Duke's going to beat Siena. That's pretty obvious. And I have Ohio State beating TCU. I got Northern Iowa pulling off the upset over St. John's. St. John's is inconsistent this year. And I have CA Baptist pulling off the upset over Kansas. Kansas is highly inconsistent this year. South Florida pulling off the upset over Louisville. Michigan State beating North Dakota State. UCLA beating UCF. UConn beating Furman. And I have Duke beating Ohio State. Northern Iowa beating Cal Baptist. And Michigan State beating South Florida. I have Michigan State upsetting UConn. UConn is inconsistent. They're not as good as they were a couple years ago. And I have Duke beating Michigan State to advance to their second straight Final Four. Now, let's go to the West region. Like I said, I'm going to fix these. So this is an autofill. I just joined this and it's already filled out. I did not fill this out. So I'm going to fix it while I'm going through the games. I have Arizona beating Long Island, obviously. Coa-Pete, Brandon Berries, Jane Bradley. That Arizona team is probably the best Arizona State in their history. They're really damn good. They beat Houston yesterday in the Big 12 title game, excuse me. I have Utah State beating Villanova. Villanova lost to a horrible Georgetown team the other day. And I have High Point pulling off the upset over Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin almost beat Michigan the other day, but Michigan is still a really good team. I have Arkansas beating Hawaii, and I have BYU being the winner of Texas and NC State, which I think will be NC State. Gonzaga beating Kennesaw State. Miami beating Missouri. Purdue beating Queens. Arizona beating Utah State. Arkansas beating High Point. Gonzaga beating BYU. And Purdue beating Miami. Gonzaga beating Purdue. Arizona beating Arkansas in the Elite Eight matchup between Arizona and Gonzaga. I think Arizona goes to the Final Four. They beat Gonzaga. So 2-1 seeds in the Final Four, Duke and Arizona. Now let's go to the South region. I have Florida beating Prairie View A&M and Lehigh, which I think will be Lehigh. Iowa beating Clemson. Clemson's inconsistent this year. I have McNeese pulling off the upset over Vanderbilt. I actually have Troy pulling off the upset over Nebraska. Nebraska has completely fallen off a cliff this year. North Carolina beating VCU. Illinois beating Penn. I have St. Mary's beating Texas A&M. And Houston beating Idaho. I have Florida beating Iowa. McNeese beating Troy. I have Illinois beating North Carolina. And Houston beating St. Mary's. I know Houston's not as good as they were last year. So I think Houston's still really good, but not as dominant as they were last year. I have Houston beating Illinois. In a rematch from last year's national title game, Florida and Houston. I think Houston gets the revenge on Florida. Florida's not as good as they were, dominant as they were last year. I think Houston goes to the Final Four. I don't think we're going to have all one seeds go to the Final Four like we did last year. So I have Houston going to the Final Four in a rematch of last year's semifinal matchup between Houston and Duke. All right, let's go to the Midwest region. I have Michigan beating UMBC and Howard. It'll be funny if UMBC beats Michigan, but I don't see it happening because Michigan's too dominant. I know they lost to Purdue today because they were due for a loss. So Michigan is moving on. Georgia, I have St. Louis beating Georgia. Akron pulling off the upset over Texas Tech. Texas Tech lost one of their best players of the year, J.T. Toppin. I have Alabama beating Hofstra. Tennessee beating the winner of Miami, Ohio, and SMU, which I think would be Miami of Ohio. I have Virginia beating Wright State, and Kentucky beating Santa Clara, and Iowa State beating Tennessee State. I have Michigan beating St. Louis, Alabama beating Akron, Virginia beating Tennessee, Iowa State beating Kentucky. Michigan absolutely dominating Alabama because Michigan is probably going to whip their ass. Alabama's not as dominant as they were a couple years ago. Michigan this year is really damn good. Yaxel Lindenberg, Ade Mara, Elliot Cador. I know Michigan lost to Purdue today in the Big Ten title game, but Michigan's still very damn good. I think Michigan rolls Alabama. And I have Michigan beating Iowa State to advance to their first Final Four since 2018. I have Michigan going to the Final Four. So my Final Four matchups will be Michigan and Arizona versus Duke and Houston. So I'm going to have Michigan beating Arizona in a great game. Arizona versus Michigan is going to be an awesome game. And I have Duke beating Houston again, their revenge from last year. Duke and Michigan, a rematch from this year's regular season game. Duke actually won 68-63. So I'm going to have Michigan to win the tournament, to get revenge on Duke. The final score will be 75-70. 75-70. I have Michigan, Yaxel Lindenberg, Dusty May, Ade Mara in that company. Dusty May getting his first national championship as a head coach at Michigan. I have Michigan winning the tournament. Michigan's really dominant this year. Look at the schedule. They dominate every single one of their schedule winning-wise. So I have Michigan winning it all. All right, guys, that's my bracket. Peace.